Today we're going to make my reversible bowl koozies. I'm just showing you here what they look like. I really like these because they are great for gifting. I gifted these for Christmas this year, and that's actually what I'm finishing up now because I did not quite get all of them finished before we went out of town. And then, of course, I left them. But I really like these because they're practical and super cute and fun. And they're perfect for hot meals like chili, and they're great for cold meals like ice cream. So I'm actually going from not quite the beginning on how to start these just because I have already done all of the prep work for these, and basically am just going to try to get these done anyways. So I'll probably do another video doing like completely from start to finish. But I thought it might be fun to go ahead and put something out, um, a quick little tutorial. So what I'm doing here is I am measuring 2 inches by 1 inches in these corners. I am using a ruler to draw a line across so that I know where to sew. Um, and so next I'm gonna go ahead and sew down that purple line that I just drew on. Um, I'm also, sometimes I pin it together just so it doesn't slide around while I'm sewing. So now I'm making sure it's nice and straight. I'm doing all of this in real time, no cutting here. um, so one thing to do is to make sure that the fabric underneath is not wrinkled in any way when you fold it over. So you can see that I have, this is a square and it's folded right sides together in half, hot dog style. And now I'm just lining up, and you can't really tell in this video because I only have like one stand and it's not very fancy. Um, but I am just adjusting my, so now I'm just going to sew along the purple line that I just drew with that marker, on both sides, making sure that I've got the right stitch length. I just kind of set it for an average one. And then I use my embroidery scissors to cut the tips off of the thread just because I don't like a lot of excess hanging around. Making sure that I'm flattening well, making sure that when I go to sew the other side that the fabric again is not wrinkled on the other side, just so it's not gathering in weird places. I stitch that across, and then go ahead and clean up the threads on that side as well. So now I'm going to take my pinking shears to cut off the excess that's left after I just stitched across that purple line. So you'll end up with these tiny little triangles. Um, and I think pinking shears are probably better for this just because they're going to be folding together when you're flipping it out. And so that kind of helps everything just kind of lay down together better without just being so clunky. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that and you're going to fold it going the other direction, hot dog style. So the stitch that you just stitched is going to be in the middle on both sides, tops and bottoms, still keeping right sides together. And then I like to pin it just a little bit just so it doesn't slide around when it's in there, just because there's layers and it's folded all wonky. So it doesn't really like to lay down super great. And then here I am making sure that it's kind of straightened out on the insides, that nothing's bunched up. And then you want to try to match your corners up as best as you can. Sometimes it's not going to be exact. And if I'm being totally honest, these aren't like the most square pieces that I cut. We made a template, and it didn't actually come out to being, I think, like 9 by 9 or 10 by 10. They were a little different, but you know what? We just make it work. So again, I'm measuring 2 inches by 1 inch, going across to up one. And then on the other side, same thing, across to up one. I like to use my grid. I really don't know what this mat's called, but I like this mat a lot. Then I'm using the ruler here just to connect those lines that I just drew, to make the diagonal line so I know where to sew and then cut. One thing too, when you are folding these across, is sometimes it's actually better to use these quilting clips um, instead of the pins, especially once you've already sewn one of the sides, because we want to try to keep those corners like all still matching up really well. So I'm going back in and I'm going to sew across those purple lines that I just made, going on the other sides. One thing too is whenever you're doing your 2 by 1 inch, I'm not sure if it matters which direction you're going. I always go horizontal and up because one, that's easier for me to just do and remember and mark. It's easier for me to see, but I think as long as you keep it consistent in the direction you're going, it should be fine. I don't think it would change too much. However, just for the fact of following a tutorial and you want it to come out like this, maybe just do it 2 inches sideways and 1 inch up, and then keep that consistent throughout your project so it stays the same. Okay, so now you have sewn across those 4 lines. You've cut what the pinking shears the excess off, and this is what it should look like. You're starting to see that bowl shape. And then you're going to go ahead and do it with the other side. So see how I folded it in half, right sides together. I'm just pressing it out. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So you can kind of see that there's like a diagonal X stitched across. Really all that is from me prepping the fabric. So I ironed my squares out and then I attached them to the interfacing. And it's like the potato microwave safe um, interfacing. So you just kind of put it together, putting the X through it. Again, when I start the next batch from scratch, I'm probably going to post a new video that does it all the way through and probably a lot shorter, honestly. But so see there, I'm folding it over in half again. But it's pretty simple to do. The first step is just to connect it, cut it out, connect it with your interfacing, make an X one to attach it into so that it makes it a little prettier. Again, I really like making these koozies. They're a really simple project if you're just getting started um, with sewing. I like that they're really forgiving too if you mess up, or if you don't measure something quite exactly right. I think they're very forgiving. You can use lots of different fabrics. You can use different types of the heat safe interfacing. I really like I think this is the Wrap and Zap that I used. I'll have to double check. But anyways, now you're going to take both of your bowls and you are going to put one inside out and one right side out. So you're going to have them right sides facing together like so. So one looks inside out and one looks regular. You're going to put them right sides facing together, which means the pretty sides are facing each other and you're going to line them up as best as humanly possible. Again, that's where if you're exactly perfect and every stitch and every crevice comes out identical, then it makes your life a little easier. If not, it's okay. Like I said, bowl koozies are pretty forgiving. So now I am just taking some pins and I am just putting them kind of near the points where they're not going to run into like my stitching while I'm just going, because I like to kind of get going really fast. And so I don't want them to be in the way, but I want them to try to keep all of the fabric in place, specifically at the points because we're stitching about a 1/4 inch seam along the edges. So I'm just going to use my regular little pins here. So now I'm just going to keep pinning in the corners till I feel like I've got it all lined up pretty well, but being mindful to leave a space so that when I'm ready to flip it through inside out, I have room to do that. So now it's another day, finally getting to finish what I started over the weekend. But now I am am going to try to do this as quickly and quietly as possible while my toddler naps because I am just a mom, a part time working mom who is trying to have some creative outlets, which is why I like to sew and I like to make things with my hands. And obviously, having pretty things to show for the things that you're doing with your hands is always fun. And I am just wanting to do better about making things for my home and for the people that fill my home and for my friends and family. Things that take time and take thought to put together and make for them. So, anyways, but now I'm just going to go ahead and so at the end of the last clip, I had put them right sides facing each other, and now I am just sewing them together with about a 1/4 inch seam. For some reason, it was not wanting to go as well this morning, but you're just going to want to do that all the way around the square. And I guess I must have either deleted or stopped recording when I actually finished sewing all the way around the square. I do leave a specific clip different than the ones I'm using at a stopping point so that I can remind myself, hey, Haley, don't sew the entire thing shut together because we need to have an opening to flip this through. So, whatever cue that is for you, I see I have that quilting clip right there to tell me, like, hey, you need to stop sewing here. Because we don't actually want to sew it all the way closed. We do need to leave a gap so that when you flip it to the pretty sides on the outsides, you can do that and you have room. I think when I actually sewed this one, I sewed the hole too small, and I did have to rip it open just a little bit so that I could flip it inside out a little bit easier. So now I must have finished sewing the edges. You can kind of see them there, and I'm taking all the pins out. Um, Again, my edges aren't perfect. Sometimes I do them flawlessly, and I'm quite proud of myself. And sometimes, I would say probably most of the times, I don't have the straightest of lines, and I might have to go back over it and fix some angling. But I do enjoy it, and that's why I really like projects that are forgiving. Um, Now, I would like to get a little bit more technical so I can do maybe some more clothing pieces is something I'd really like to do in the future. Um, but right now I don't quite have enough time to dedicate to a clothing overhaul. But so now I'm just flipping it inside out, and apparently I did that away from the camera. So you're just gonna flip it inside out, and you're gonna do your best and work it. Take your time. There is no rush. Um, and a lot of there's a tool you can use to like poke the corners of things when you're flipping things inside out. I don't have one of those, and sometimes I use a pen to get in there and poke the corners out, but I think today I just used my fingers, which is totally fine. um so I'm just flipping it inside out here. And while I am working on flipping this inside out, I did want to go ahead and mention that when you are doing those corners of a square and you're trying to keep that seam the same all the way around on each side, you do want to make sure that your needle is down when you are pivoting. So you're going to want to lift your presser foot, but keep your needle down in it so that it can continue in a seamless way to where your stitch isn't like jumping awkwardly. I didn't have time to show that in the previous clip. That is a reminder to do as you are going in all projects, especially if there are turns and corners. You're gonna want to make sure that when you lift your presser foot, that your needle is still down, holding your spot for you to continue going. Okay, so now it's starting to get some shape. I've got it all the way through, and I am stretching it out. I'm trying to poke in all the little corners on both sides. I do it again on the other side. I think I do this several times just to make sure that I'm fluffing and I'm stretching it all back out where it goes. Um, But as you can see, it's looking like a bowl koozie. Some people will just close up that hole that we flipped it through, um, using either just a top stitch or using a hidden ladder invisible stitch. Um, when I made an Easter basket last year, I that's how I closed a hole. But um, from from other people I've seen make bowl koozies, and they suggested putting this marking out here, this additional little stitch around the edges, just to hold it all together a little bit better, and it just does kind of give it that firm finishing touch. It looks so nice. So I'm going to go in here and about a 1/4 inch seam, I'm just going to put that stitch all the way around. I'm going to start at where that hole is, making sure I've got it pressed down pretty good. Sometimes it's kind of hard, so you might have to work it through a little slow. But you're going to close up that hole from where you flipped it through, and then you're just going to keep going, and it's going to be one beautiful long stitch around all of your sides to give the top of your koozie that finished and firm look. And once you finish that stitch around the edge, you're finished. This is me kind of showing you some up close the that final stitch really does give it a nice finishing touch. Obviously, I'm doing this and didn't keep it in frame very well, but here is your beautiful reversible bowl koozie. Um, these are just my favorite. They're so fun to make. And I really like the little bit of life that they add to my kitchen. And I love getting these out. Make one for yourself, make one for your friends, and there you go. Thanks for watching my first tutorial.